The Galactic Council had gathered in silence for the first time in 300 years. Not the ceremonial silence of diplomacy, but the suffocating quiet of species who knew they were about to die. Ambassador Velthar of the Kryn Collective watched the holographic star map with 3 of his 4 eyes. The 4th remained fixed on the entrance, waiting for the representatives from that backwater system at the galaxy's edge, the ones who called themselves human. The map told a story of defeat written in red. The Devourers had swept through the Outer Rim in 18 months, consuming 12 civilizations. Their organic ships didn't just destroy, they assimilated. Technology, biology, knowledge, everything became fuel for their expansion. The Kryn had fought them for 70 years before requesting council intervention. The Yarveth, masters of quantum warfare, had lasted 6 weeks. They will be here soon, High Chancellor Ixara announced, her crystalline form refracting the red light into patterns that hurt to observe. The humans. A ripple of unease passed through the assembled representatives. Humanity had only joined the council 30 years ago, and their presence remained controversial. They had no faster-than-light travel when first contact occurred. No energy shields, no gravity manipulation. They were primitives who had barely escaped their own star system, but they had something the application committee couldn't ignore. They had survived themselves. The doors opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Captain Elena Vasquez entered first, her military uniform crisp despite the 3-month journey from Earth. Behind her walked Dr. James Chen, his datapad already interfacing with the Council's systems. The 3rd member of their delegation, Commander Marcus Webb, moved with the economy of motion that spoke of military training that went deeper than ceremonial. Velthar noted their youth. Most council species sent elder statesmen to such gatherings, individuals with centuries of experience. These humans appeared to have lived barely 50 orbits combined. It was either arrogance or ignorance, perhaps both. "Thank you for attending," Ixara began, her voice carrying the harmonic frequency of genuine distress. "Though I wish the circumstances were different. The Devourer fleet has entered the core territories. Current projections give us 4 months before they reach the Council homeworlds. Every conventional strategy has failed." Captain Vasquez stepped forward. "Show me their pattern." The request was direct to the point of rudeness, but Ixara complied. The hologram shifted, displaying 300 years of Devourer movement. They consumed a system, paused to digest and integrate, then moved to the next. Efficient, unstoppable. Dr. Chen's fingers danced across his datapad. "They're predictable." Predictable? Velthar couldn't contain his incredulity. "They adapt to every weapon, every tactic." The Yarveth threw entropy bombs at them, weapons that unravel molecular bonds. The Devourers absorbed the technology and now use it themselves. "That's exactly the problem," Chen replied, his eyes never leaving the data. "You keep trying to out-technology them. They're biological computers designed to assimilate and improve. Every time you introduce a new weapon, you're just giving them an upgrade." "What would you have us do?" Ixara asked. "Surrender? Fight dumber," Commander Webb said. Silence descended again, but this time it carried shock rather than despair. "Explain," Ixara commanded. Vasquez nodded to Chen, who projected a new image, historical footage from Earth. Primitive aircraft dropping crude explosive devices, soldiers in trenches firing chemical projectiles, ships launching unguided missiles. "This is how we fought our world wars," Vasquez explained. "Before we had artificial intelligence, before we had smart weapons." Kinetic energy. Chemical reactions. Strategies that don't rely on advanced computing or exotic physics. Velthar felt his spines bristle. "You propose we fight an enemy that devours civilizations with antiques? We propose you fight them with weapons they can't assimilate because there's nothing to assimilate," Webb corrected. "The Devourers are sophisticated. They're expecting sophisticated responses. They're not expecting rocks." "Rocks?" The word came from Ambassador Thelkson of the Vortine hegemony, whose species had lost their homeworld 3 months prior. "Kinetic bombardment," Chen clarified, pulling up simulations. "We accelerate dense materials to relativistic speeds using simple gravitational slingshots. No guidance systems, no smart technology, just mass, velocity, and mathematics that were proven thousands of years ago." The simulation played out. Tungsten rods, each weighing several tons, accelerated around a star's gravity well and released on calculated trajectories. They struck the organic devourer ships with the force of nuclear weapons, but there was no technology to absorb. Just physics. Furthermore, Vasquez continued, we don't engage them in space where they expect us. We mine the approach vectors with old-fashioned explosive devices. We use chemical weapons. Yes, we know they're banned by Council law, but these aren't Council members. We use biological agents tailored to organic matter. We use fire. Fire? Ixara's crystalline form seemed to dim. In space? In atmosphere, Webb specified. We let them land. We let them think they're winning. Then we burn them out with thermobaric weapons and incendiaries. The Devourers evolved to consume advanced technology. They're not prepared for primitive warfare. Velthar studied the three humans with new appreciation and dawning horror. They weren't proposing a battle plan. They were proposing a return to savagery. Why would your species know such things? He asked quietly. Why would you have preserved these methods? Captain Vasquez met his gaze without flinching. Because, Ambassador, we've spent the last 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other. We didn't stop because we became peaceful. We stopped because we finally realized the enemy might be someone else. The council chamber erupted in heated debate that stretched for 3 cycles. Some called the human proposal barbaric. Others called it insane. But as the Devourer fleet advanced another system closer, desperation won over dignity. The humans called their strategy Operation Throwback. Velthar found himself assigned as council liaison to the human task force, a position he suspected was intended as either punishment or honor. He couldn't determine which. He watched as humanity's true nature revealed itself not in their primitiveness, but in their terrifying efficiency. The first engagement came at the Kelvin system, a mineral-rich cluster the Devourers had designated for consumption. The Council fleet had been evacuated, leaving only automated monitoring stations. According to every strategic model, the system would fall within a week. Captain Vasquez had other plans. Defensive positions are for people with something to defend, she explained to the assembled fleet commanders. We're not defending. We're hunting. The human ships entered the system broadcasting on every frequency, a challenge practically begging the Devourers to engage, and they came as predicted, their organic vessels emerging from subspace like tumors breaching into reality. But the humans didn't fire their advanced weapons. Instead, the void filled with objects the Council's sensors struggled to classify. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. What are those? Velthar demanded. Ball bearings, Chen replied calmly. Steel spheres. We released them 3 days ago on calculated orbits throughout the system. The Devourer ships accelerated toward the human fleet, beginning their assimilation protocols, preparing to absorb whatever weapons the prey might deploy. Instead, they ran into a cloud of metal moving at orbital velocity. At such speeds, even a marble becomes a missile. The ball bearings punctured the organic hulls like bullets through tissue. No technology to assimilate, no sophisticated defenses to adapt to. Just simple Newtonian physics that had been true since the universe began. The Devourer fleet shuddered, hemorrhaging atmosphere and biological matter into space. They tried to regenerate, to adapt, but the humans were already executing Phase 2. Launch the hammers, Vasquez ordered. Velthar watched in horrified fascination as dozens of human ships released their payloads, solid tungsten rods, each 20 meters long and 2 meters wide. They fell toward the largest Devourer vessel not with guidance systems or propulsion, but with gravity's inexorable pull. The impact was visible across the system. The first rod punched through the organic ship like a needle through flesh. The second followed. Then the third. Each strike released kinetic energy equivalent to a small fusion bomb, but left nothing the Devourers could assimilate except the memory of destruction. They're retreating, Commander Webb noted, surprise evident in his voice, but Vasquez shook her head. No, they're adapting their strategy. They'll come back with armor, with dispersion tactics. This bought us time, not victory, she was right. 3 weeks later, the Devourers returned to the Kelvin system with modified vessels. Their hulls had thickened, spread out their mass. They advanced slowly, screening for kinetic threats. The humans were waiting. Now, Vasquez said simply, the modified council ships, retrofitted with human technology, or rather, human lack thereof, emerged from the system's asteroid belt. They carried no energy weapons, no quantum disruptors, Instead, their cargo bays opened to reveal something the galaxy hadn't seen used in warfare for millennia. Nuclear weapons, hundreds of them. Not the clean fusion devices the Council used for stellar engineering. These were fission bombs, dirty and primitive, their radioactive cores ready to scatter isotopes across the battlefield. The Council had banned such weapons 3,000 years ago as barbaric relics of a more savage age. The humans had built them in 6 weeks. "You're contaminating the system," Velthar protested. "Better contaminated than consumed," Chen replied. "And the Devourers are organic. Radiation is just another form of warfare to them, one they haven't encountered because every civilized species abandoned it. The nuclear bombardment turned space itself into poison. The Devourer ships tried to retreat, tried to adapt, but their organic structures couldn't evolve fast enough. The radiation broke down their cellular matrices faster than they could regenerate. And still, the humans pressed their advantage. The surviving Devourer ships fell back to the 4th planet, attempting to land and integrate with the biosphere as they had done on countless other worlds. They would consume the planet's resources, use them to rebuild and adapt. But Captain Vasquez had spent her entire military career studying Earth's most brutal conflicts, and she knew that victory didn't belong to the sophisticated. It belonged to the ruthless. "Initiate planetary protocol," she commanded. The human ships descended through the atmosphere, carrying payloads that made Velthar question whether they had made a terrible mistake in seeking humanity's aid. Napalm, white phosphorus, thermobaric weapons, chemical agents designed to break down organic matter at the molecular level. And when the Devourers tried to flee underground, the humans collapsed entire cave systems with seismic charges. When they tried to disperse into smaller organisms, the humans burned the very soil with temperatures that turned sand to glass. It took 18 hours. When it was over, the 4th planet of Kelvan was scarred, poisoned, and would require decades of remediation. But it was clean of Devourers. "Monstrous," Ambassador Thelkson whispered, watching the after-action reports. "Effective," High Chancellor Ixara corrected quietly. Over the next 2 months, the pattern repeated across 7 systems. The Devourers advanced. The humans countered with weapons from humanity's darkest historical periods, and each time the galaxy's most feared enemy retreated, unable to adapt to tactics that had no sophistication to assimilate. On the 73rd day of Operation Throwback, the Devourer fleet did something unprecedented. They opened communications. The message was simple, translated through biological acoustic patterns. "What are you?" Captain Vasquez responded personally. "We're the species that had to learn how to kill ourselves efficiently before we could reach the stars. Every weapon you faced was designed first to use against our own people. You wanted to assimilate our technology? This is it. This is what we built when all we knew how to do was destroy." The Devourers withdrew from Council space 3 days later. Their vast fleet, which had consumed 12 civilizations, retreated beyond the galactic rim, seeking easier prey among species who fought with honor and advancement. The Council held a ceremony honoring humanity's contribution. Medals were distributed. Speeches made about the value of diverse perspectives and unexpected solutions. But Velthar noticed that the other ambassadors kept their distance from the human delegation now. They had asked humanity to save them, and humanity had delivered. But in doing so, they had revealed a truth the galaxy wasn't ready to accept. The species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel, that had been dismissed as primitives, were the most dangerous beings any of them had ever encountered. Because while every other species had evolved past their violent natures before reaching the stars, humanity had brought their violence with them and refined it over millennia of self-directed warfare. As the ceremony concluded, Velthar approached Captain Vasquez one final time. "Your people frighten us now," he admitted. Vasquez nodded slowly. "We frighten ourselves sometimes, Ambassador. That's why we needed to leave Earth. We needed to find something worth protecting besides ourselves." She paused, looking at the assembled council members celebrating their salvation. "We spent 10,000 years learning how to fight. Maybe now we can spend the next 10,000 learning how to protect. But if something threatens what we choose to protect..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had entered the cosmic stage, and in that moment of desperate need, every advanced civilization realized the same terrifying truth. The most dangerous beings in the universe weren't the ones who had evolved beyond violence. They were the ones who had perfected it.